Welcome to your source for research, innovation, news, insights, and commentary. This is your Research Business Daily Report, where we're sponsored today by RFL Communications. We hope you had a great weekend, and even though the game really stunk last night, we also hope that you got some benefit out of the advertising that accompanied the ads. The biggest advertising day of the year is Super Bowl Sunday, because during the game and during the timeouts last night, 40-plus commercials were run. And we're happy to have David Paull from Dialsmith with us today, along with Paul Shellenberg, the advertising research specialist from Socratic Technologies. My general impression last night of the Super Bowl ads was that I was really let down. Underwhelmed would probably be the best word in my vocabulary. Paul, what did you think of it in general?
Well, in general, I probably would have to agree. I thought, obviously, the game was a stinker, and that's unfortunate. But I was a little bit underwhelmed with the advertising, too. I'm not saying that there weren't some good ads on there. I think there were. But my overall impression was that of being a little underwhelmed with the advertising.
David, how about you?
I think in general, there were certainly ads that connected and that I liked a lot. With 50-some ads and all of the pressure and spotlight that's put on doing Super Bowl ads, I think the yardstick that we try to measure these by may start to become impossible to reach from a single impression of an ad standpoint.
Did either one of you or both of you have any feeling about the general quality of the ads last night versus other years that perhaps are very memorable to you?
I think there was a lot of polish on the ads that I saw yesterday. So I think, obviously production value is very high. There's a lot of creativity that's clearly going on, but creativity for creativity's sake doesn't always connect. You can very easily miss the mark.
Paul?
Well, I think that, I would agree with that. There seemed to be a lot of commercials that were trying to hit you on an emotional level, and it may be that the past success of Anheuser-Busch and some of their emotionally oriented commercials led other advertisers to try and do that same kind of thing. Did they hit the mark? I don't know. I need to test them to make sure. But a couple of them definitely hit the mark for me. I watched them, but again, I'm in the business and I'm watching those commercials very closely. So we have to see what the general public decides are the successful ads or not.
But what I'd like to do now is kind of go down a list with each of you of the most effective and the least effective ads.
Well, for me personally, I really like the Hyundai ad called Dad's Sixth Sense, which is the premise is dads keeping their kids out of harm's way, and then at the end it's actually the car that saves the day and keeps them out of harm's way. And if you'd like, in a bit, I can talk about what some of our ratings actually showed were indeed the highest rated ads of the night with viewers.
Okay, Paul?
Well, I could tell you that that wasn't in my top 5, actually. I did like that ad, David. I saw that pre-Super Bowl, and yes, it certainly caught my attention. However, after viewing the balance of the ads, I came up with a top 5, and of course, Puppy Love was my number 1. I'm pretty sure that's going to be rated the number 1 commercial on this year's Super Bowl. But there were 2 others that also, there was a Doritos ad that a man went into a time machine, and I believe that that's going to resonate well with the public. The Cheerios ad obviously is going to be a controversial ad and will be one that people will have watched because of the pre-media buzz. So I think their branding is going to be very strong.
Paul brings up some good ones. I won't repeat them for repeating's sake, but I will tell you that in our early numbers, Budweiser definitely connected. Puppy Love is our number 2 rated spot, but the other Budweiser one, Heroes Welcome, with the soldier coming home, is currently in the top spot for us. And for ads with humor, Doritos Cowboy Kid is the number 1 ad currently in that humor category. So, what we see connecting clearly, making that emotional connection. Our third one in the emotional category, and really at the top 3, is the Microsoft one called Empowering, where technology is bringing all this benefit to people's lives. Personally, I thought the Radioshack ad was quite fun. I don't know how much buzz it's going to get, and maybe I spent a lot of years in the 80s, so I really connected with that, and I think the message was clear, that they're moving out with the old and that stodgy kind of 80s, 70s, 80s, 90s, and bringing it up to more current. So if they can actually deliver on that.
I think 2 of those commercials that really did an exceptional job branding. One was for Bud Light, where every frame in that commercial there was a bright blue Bud Light beer bottle. You're not going to forget that branding there. And the other one was a clever one, I thought, was the Heinz ketchup. They did an exceptional job of storytelling. Also, though, they included in every frame a bottle of their Heinz ketchup. You're not going to forget that commercial. They won't let you forget that commercial, especially from a branding standpoint.
David, you go first. What did you think was kind of at the bottom of the list last night?
Well, personally, for me, the biggest head scratcher was the Honda ad with Bruce Willis. I didn't get it. It took forever to get to what the ad was about. So Paul's point about branding, I mean, there were a lot of big ads last night that didn't get to the brand until the very last few seconds. And from a marketing standpoint, doesn't make sense to me. Maybe you do get people on the edge of their seat wondering what's this going to be about, and maybe you get them paying a little bit more attention, but for memorability purposes, you're not making that imprint on the brain. So I didn't get the Honda ad at all.
Another one is the Coca-Cola Lambeau Field. It was an overused premise, I think, and you didn't get to it until the very end. And if you didn't hold people's attention throughout that commercial, they're not going to remember who that commercial was for. I'm really excited to test that ad.
In our testing, I can tell you our current bottom 3, Squarespace, which is the web hosting service that kind of competes with GoDaddy, didn't really connect. Next after that was GoDaddy, the bodybuilder one, which our testing all week showed wasn't really working with people. And our current bottom rated one is CarMax, which is called Slow Clap.
One that sticks out a little bit looking over my list is because I was very hopeful for those advertisers who expend this kind of money to advertise on the Super Bowl and then don't hit the mark for some reason. And WeatherTech was a company that manufactures auto items like floor mats, and I think their ad was for floor mats. And I don't think that's going to be a very helpful ad for them in their overall marketing campaign.
And they're a local company here in the Chicagoland area. And
Are they?
And their big image that they were trying to convey is that it's made in America, and that's one of the reasons you should buy it. A big part of the experience for a lot of people is what they call second screening, which for those of you out there who are unfamiliar with the term, has to do with people being on Twitter or Facebook or some other social media while they're watching the game last night or watching television in general. And how big or how important a factor that may turn out to be as we go along in assessing how effective commercials like these are. Not just last night, but perhaps going into the future. Paul, why don't you take that first?
You know, Bob, I'm not sure I know how to answer that exactly. I'm not a big Twitter guy, so I assume that people in certain demographics are, and that may be important to them going forward. However, I still think that traditional measures based on quantitative analysis of commercials, really do tell the story on how successful an ad is in performing its function and how successful that brand is going to be going forward.
I think scientifically speaking, if you really want to measure an ad's performance and effectiveness, the traditional measures are certainly still king. But Twitter's an interesting example. We had TweetDeck open last night, and we were tracking the 4 to 5 most active hashtags on Super Bowl ads just to watch as the chatter was going by. And in a way, it's a very large qualitative exercise, which I think in advertising research has an important place. Our work is a mix of qual and quant. And I think what we can learn from watching social media during and after ad campaigns helps round out some of the color commentary of getting qualitative feedback like that. And while it's not rigorously recruited and not properly recruited, so it also has to be taken with a grain of salt, but I think it's becoming an important piece of the puzzle that we can't ignore, but we have to use it properly.
Okay. David Paull from Dialsmith and Paul Shellenberg from Socratic Technologies, thank you both very much for giving us some of your very valuable post-Super Bowl time today.
Thank you, Bob. Good to see you, Paul.
Thanks, Bob. Have a great day.
Okay. This has been your Research Business Daily Report for Tuesday, February the 4th. We've been sponsored by RFL Communications. Have a great research day, and we'll see you back here tomorrow.